Hi, it's Shamo with one final video for Scrapbook Remix, and I really hope that you have enjoyed the class and everything so far. In this last video, I wanted to show you what I call my on-the-go or ready-to-go album, and whatever album, it changes now and then. I've been working on this one as my on-the-go album for a while now, but I'll probably change relatively soon. And it just means an album that I keep page kits in ready to go, so that if I want to go scrap somewhere else, I don't need to do anything except pick up that album and then my basic tools like my scissors, trimmer, pen, adhesive, that sort of thing, because everything is in page kits in the album. And then when I finish the pages, I just put them into the album, so it's all there ready to go. So this would have started as a page kit. When the page kit was done, the page was done, the page goes right into that page protector. So when you flip through, you'll see different different levels of readiness. So sometimes it'll just be I have a set of pictures and I know this is where they go in the storyline, or maybe I only have one and I know I'm just going to put journaling with it, so this time it goes in a divided page protector, so I'll add the writing here, but I won't do a full 12 by 12. But sometimes it'll be a finished 12 by 12 page because I've already finished that one. So as I go through, there are some that are done, and this is an album that's all about dancing. So it starts with my little kitty dance pictures and comes up to things that are more current. And it means that I have some pages that are really old. So I made this in year 2000 or 2001. So you see a really old style, but then you'll see things that are more recent and in between, all mixed in together just to tell the story in chronological order, basically. So quite a few in this section that are finished. And then I'll get to another spot where I'll have a page kit. So here there's a photo and I have this page protector full of the different papers that I want to use. And in other cases, and here's another one with papers ready to go. Other cases it'll have a full page kit with all the different lettering, embellishments, all those things ready. And one more here with letter stickers, pattern paper, embellishments, and the photos. And then when I get to the end, I tend to have a variety of different page protectors. So I have some full 12 by 12s, I have some divided 6 by 12, and then a variety of different divided 12 by 12. And then a couple at the end that just have big stacks of photos, because I haven't gone through and broken these down into different pages, but I have them printed and they're ready to go. So I try to keep, well, I've just finished a couple in here, so I try to keep about 5 page protectors ready to go, because if I'm honest, making 5 whole layouts in one day is a pretty big accomplishment for me. I don't tend to do that many in one day. But with this album like this all ready to go, then if I decide I want to scrapbook somewhere else, if it's a really nice day, it's not the middle of winter, if it's a really nice day, I can go scrapbook outside, or if I have a scrapbooky friend who's free for the afternoon, we can go work on an album. And I just really like this idea of having an album that's ready to pick up at a moment's notice. But even if I'm scrapbooking at home, sometimes it also just means that I know if my brain is too frizzled and I don't really know where to start, I can always start with this album, because I know the storyline, I know what I'm doing, and it's one album that I've planned out a little more than the others. So everything else I tend to go and start page by page, and then I look at the album and see where things are going to fit, and then I make the layout. But in this case, I know this whole album inside and out. I have the supplies ready to go, so it's a really quick way to get into a project. And I just wanted you to be able to see the difference in what I will put in one album, and how some pages will be single photos, some pages will have a lot of pattern paper, some will have more empty space, some will have multiple photos. There's a mix of new and old photos all in the same album. There'll be double pagers and 8.5 by 11 pages in with the 12 by 12. I really don't think that you have to stick to one thing. And when you're, all the way through Remix, we've talked about mixing different pattern papers from different companies and different collections. I think the same thing goes for being able to mix different styles together. So I have 2 pages here that go right next to each other, and one is very blocky and plain and graphic. I mean, it does have detail, it has pattern, but it's not, nothing here is angled, everything is very orderly, versus this one, which is a lot more freestyle. There's a lot bolder pattern, there are things on an angle, there are messy stacks of paper, and it all works out really well together because it gives your eye a little bit of a rest. And the contrast here, so you can sit and read all this journaling if you really want to know that whole story, or you can take out the journaling in certain cases and have a closer read, or you can just look and flip the pages. There's that option of how much time you want to devote if you're looking. And I'm okay with all of that. I don't mind if some people flip through, and I don't mind if somebody sits down and really wants to know the whole story. So I like that little bit of variety. So I just thought that might be helpful. And then as our final page tutorial, I'm going to take one of these page kits and complete this layout. So I'm going to go back to this one at the back that had everything all ready to go. This one. So I'll just unpack this whole page kit, and I haven't looked at this in advance, so obviously I've packed it at an earlier point, so hopefully I will still like everything in the page kit. And sometimes, especially if I'm working at home on a project from this album, I will add other things if they happen to be handy and seem to match, because I will have had other supplies since then. But let's see what we've got. So I have a sheet of navy dotted Swiss cardstock, then a Lily Bee baby blue polka dot or ledger, so that reads as a solid. And I also have, from Lily Bee, a green and blue chevron, which is a red and white polka dot on the other side. And this Narratives die cut paper. I'm not sure if I had a master plan for all of this. We'll see. And then I had Bella Boulevard letter stickers in the blue color scheme. I had green glittery thickers and some paper rosettes. And then I'm interested in this is an interesting mix of color, because I've put together all this blue and green, and the photos that I have to go with it are pink and green. So there is a little bit of pink in here, just a tiny bit. I think I may want to add a little bit of pink to the embellishment, so I may just grab a few scraps of pink paper as I go and see what will work best as I put this together. I decided I would use the navy blue cardstock as the background and then do the layer of the light blue polka dot for most of the page. So I cut the light blue to an 11-inch square. Then I did want to go ahead and add some pink into this mix of paper. So I went to my basket of scraps and found two pink papers that were just single colored patterns. So one was a swirl, and that's from Echo Park, and then a Bella Boulevard kind of, it's a dotty pattern, if you can see that. It's all different dots, not a regimented polka dot, but kind of a bit more random. So I cut these. I chose just two of the photos. There were 5 that I put in the page protector, and I went with just 2. And yes, I can't quite believe that I'm putting embarrassing childhood dance photos on a video, but there we go. So I cut then the 3 papers. So I also had that blue and green chevron in my mix as well. So I made those to be the different layers behind the photos. So this one has the photos matted, and then I just made these the size to go a little bit bigger. Each one is a little bit bigger. And of course I'm going to, rather than put them straight in a graduated mat, I'm going to offset them and make them a little bit messy. So I want to angle pieces so they're just at a really slight angle, and so that I can cross the different layers. So you can tell here that this blue box takes up that whole space, but this pink is going over those edges. Then I'll go to the next layer, the blue and green chevron, and I'll angle this one back the other way ever so slightly. But the trick to this is always to keep the angles really small, because if I do this, it's too extreme and it looks too forced. There's just too much. The smaller the angle, the better. So I just offset them ever so slightly. Not much at all. and then that will work as a cohesive element, and it's not so jarring to the eye. It also means that I can usually get the photos to be relatively straight in terms of where their finished placement is. It tends to be the layers behind that are skew-if. Then I had that lovely die cut paper, and what I want to do is use just the bottom of this right across the bottom of the page so that all those other pieces are tucked underneath there. So I'm just going to put my adhesive along the top edge of the die cut paper and all along this bottom edge except for the two very corners. And that should let me catch all the places that I need so that that paper will be stuck in the right place. And for this, I'm just going to pick that up and see how much of the wording I'm losing there. And I am going to lose a little bit there, so I'm going to see if I can move it up just a bit. So that means moving pictures up. Maybe not quite that much. Sorry, I'm probably going off the camera here. So I've just picked these up and moved them just a little bit straight up the page. I'll try that again to see if that way I don't lose quite so much of the wording on the paper. Yeah, that seems like that's going to be a better spot. And then I can just take this to the trimmer and cut straight across there. This gives me a basic plot of where everything's going to go on the page. So I have this kind of different twist of having a little bit of a title at the bottom of the page. I have space here where I can add journaling, and I have areas where I can put some embellishment. So I'm going to go ahead and get my writing down on the page first. And I was contemplating whether I should write straight onto the blue or whether I should cut out a little bit of this ledger, but I think that's too much with the die cut edge, so I could either just do it and cut it into a box, or I can write straight on the background. And I think because I tend to write on the background, I'll go with that idea. And then once I've got the writing in place, I'm going to come back in with my embellishment and dress up the title a little bit. Okay, so here's all my writing, and I did add a few little letter stickers just kind of as a subtitle into the story. And now I'm ready to start looking for some places to embellish and seeing how I could dress up that bottom part of the page to make it gel with the rest of the layout. And I'm losing a little track of the green in this page. When I first had the page kit out, I think that I had put the photos with this kit because of that green, and now it's feeling very blue and pink rather than blue and green. So I'm going to bring in more of the green with some washi tape and then the pink as well. So I thought I would start up here with this corner next to the letter stickers because I feel like this little spot is just a bit lost. So I can run that off the edge of the page and then a layer of the pink in the gap below that. And that will give me one place here for embellishment, so I'm looking for two more spots like that. And ideally, I'd like them to form some sort of triangle. So if I draw that across the page, I end up with one over on this side and the one down here, and that will work quite well. So I'll go ahead and just pick a spot over here to add the same thing, a layer of green and a layer of pink. And then I think I'll go a bit bigger down here. And now I have those three spots to add my embellishment. Now the embellishments that I'd put with the kit are these paper rosettes. So I'll start with those. And the largest one is in that green and pink, so I'm going to go ahead and place that at bottom of the page, and then looking at which other pinwheels would be the best bet. And I think I'll do one green and one pink. And so if I have one of each, then my best bet is to separate the pink one as the odd one out. So I'll put the pink on this side, I'll put the green up here. And the nice thing with these little types of rosettes is if the piece on top isn't particularly what I'm after, I can just layer something else on top of that. And so I may end up switching out that little brown flower because I'm not quite sure that that's the best thing for this page. But that's really all the embellishment that I had put in the kit. So I kind of need to get a little bit creative with what else I might put in that mix. And I do still have this bit of paper, and I'd like to bring some white into these two groupings because there's a lot of white down here at the bottom of the page, but nothing to tie it to the rest of the layout. So I'm going to grab a punch and create a few little paper pieces that I can spread amongst those embellishments from that leftover bit of pattern paper. That's given me 3 little butterflies, but I thought I might also include some of that pink swirl paper that I'd used in the mats. So I'll do a little heart punch from each of those, and then I can layer that on top of the butterflies. And just adding that same ink to everything. I tend to, if I'm going to ink it all, then every single piece gets inked. So I'll even add some ink to the edge of those pinwheels. And then I'll stack up the little hearts on top of the butterfly with some pop dots, and maybe put a little pearl or gem on top of the heart, and then I'll have that little bit of layering to bring in the dimension alongside all these little folded paper pinwheels. I've added just a few little extras to this larger area of embellishment. One little badge and then a little resin flower, because that's the bigger spot, so it needs just a little bit of something more. So I just looked for dimensional embellishments that had the right colors. And then once I had finished all of that, I realized what's missing now from each of these groupings is something returning to that original blue color scheme. So I wanted to add a little spark of blue in there. So I'm just using 3 little blue rhinestones on each one, and I'm putting those on the edges of the tape so that they form a little triangle around the embellishment. And that should be enough to bring that color from the background back into the embellishment so that it all goes together quite well. If you didn't like rhinestones, you could do individual little cross stitches, you can do ink or tiny little stamp design and stamp it around, just something that you can take that last color and bring it back in together. So the other element that I thought I might change out was this flower, and I think in the end I'm just going to add a little bit more green to the top there because I have this gem handy, and then I'm going to leave that because I've covered up most of the yellow in the flower with the green center. It doesn't really stand out to me so much as a separate color that's being introduced, so I think that will be okay on its own. And the only thing I need to do is to add the date, and the date's going to go in this space here, and there's a real reason I'm not going to add it right now, and that's because I'm not particularly sure. It's a date I can figure out on my timeline, so I know I'll be able to figure out when it was, but I don't know, and if I do it right now, if I guess of one of the 2 years that it could be, I'll probably get it wrong. So what I've done is purposely left a space in my mind where I know that I can come in and add the date right there underneath those embellishments, and for now I'll leave it. It'll go in my album in chronological order, so it won't be skew from the date. It'll still be obvious as you go from page to page, but until I can verify exactly what year it was and get it right, I'm going to wait. Sometimes if I don't have a way to figure out the year, then I'll just write circa in the year or roundabout this time. But this one, I know that there is another piece of information. If I go through my files, I'll be able to pinpoint it. So I'm going to wait and do that. So that last bit then is just to take the tape and fold it back around to the other side of the page. And then this one will be all finished. I can pop it into that album. I'll replace it with another page kit. And then the elements that I have left from this page kit can go back into my stash unless there's something else that I want to put them with in that particular album. And that's as difficult as it is. It's a really, really simple process. And this is the sort of page that I could happily create either at home or away, because if I wasn't at home and I needed other embellishments, I would just look at other things I had in that album, because there's more than one page kit. So I might be able to just borrow embellishment from a different section of the album and make it work. So I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me for Scrapbook Remix, and I hope to see you in another class sometime soon. Thanks so much.